I didn't think I'd ever make a video about those two K-pop entities, united by one broad subject, but alas, here we are. 2024 is crazy. Let's talk about K-pop vocals because it's long overdue. Everything I say here is in good faith and is only said to present an argument rather than harm any of the artists mentioned. Please keep that in mind. Following the sserafim's Coachella performance, discussions around K-pop idols and their vocal abilities rose, and we are now at a point where it is arguably more important to sing than dance in K-pop again. Companies are staging malefactions to showcase live vocals and releasing practices with live singing. While I personally find this change a positive, I also think there is room to argue for a group not necessarily having a stacked lineup of vocalists like sserafim, and even TWICE. Since I started this video with sserafim, I think it's time to touch on them. They have 2 decent vocalists and 3 bad ones who can't even stay on key, which is the problem. There's no issues with K-pop group members not being good at singing if they contribute to the group in different ways. I have said this on a different video of mine, but K-pop companies still build groups using positions. They have quotas to fill such as main vocalist, visual, main dancer, main rapper, center, and stand attractor, etc. And that's how trainees are chosen to be in a group. They have to serve a purpose and cover for a weakness. K-pop idols excel in one area in order to cover each other's weaknesses because they're a group, and that's one of the advantages of being in a group and not a solo artist. TWICE is built well in that aspect, and you can pretty easily assign those positions to members in a group. The issue arises when the skill level is below average in the group, but K-pop idols don't need to be good vocalists because someone in the group is literally in it to cover for them. Despite that, being on key is bare minimum, and sserafim did struggle with that, and in their defense, I think their songs don't suit the members' abilities vocally. If HYBE wanted a girl group to sing in such high keys, why not put members with strong vocal abilities, rather than a group built on stage presence and choreography? This is exactly my point. Rather than build a group that covers weaknesses, HYBE took too much focus on stage presence instead of covering the weakness of sserafim, which is singing. So no, not all K-pop idols need to be good at singing. Doing 15 seconds of a mid-register note as lines is sufficient and would usually not expose any weaknesses. sserafim's Crazy shows HYBE finally understood the issue with not covering for weaknesses through a lineup and gave sserafim a song that pertains to their strengths. Crazy focuses on instrumentals and talk singing, which allows sserafim to focus on performing, which is their strong suit. If sserafim only had songs like Crazy, I doubt anyone would notice their weaker members' in singing abilities because, first, the song suits their strengths, and second, more songs tailored to the members' singing levels would never highlight the problem in the first place. If a song given to sserafim actually suited them as a group and their skills by giving Yoonjin and Chaewon the choruses alongside some ad-libs and easy lower-key verses to Eunchae, Sakura, and Kazuha, the issue would be masked. Of course, there's some work that has to be done regarding staying on key and pitch, but it's a work in progress which the girls are working on and they're trying to improve, but it's the label's job to showcase the strengths of an idol group. Crazy is a great catchy song that perfectly suits sserafim, and dare I say, so was Anti-Fragile. sserafim were perfect for the talk-singing instrumental-driven songs. They're right at home where they can perform to the best of their abilities on a song. I think Crazy is the positive step in their right direction for sserafim, and it's a great electro song that clearly pays tribute to ballroom influences in voguing. Well, speaking of highlighting problems, tzuyu is what happens when you take a member who isn't very good at singing or commanding a stage solo, and you usually have her weaknesses covered by the other members, only to put her on a stage alone where nobody could cover for her. Runaway almost works, it's terribly close to working. The song, not the mending singing, and its focus on instrumental rather than the singing part, helps mask tzu유's bad to average vocal abilities. But then again, throughout the song, I keep hoping she'll start singing because it seems like sections, such as the chorus, demand more ad-libs and higher notes than what tzuyu is capable of doing. Runaway is, ironically, very one note, and its one line in a higher key has tzuyu sounding like she's nearly straining. I can't speak on the technicality of the singing, but to my ear, it sounded like struggle with the chorus, and it wasn't even that high. Compare this to the diva moments other TWICE soloists had, and at large to other visual soloists from her generation like Jaeyeon literally 2 weeks ago, or hilariously, even ITZY's solo songs, and they'd absolutely make her look lame. does Runaway work in a box if you separate it from every other K-pop soloist? Yes, it's a good song to listen to in the background, but if it's a performance and you have to look at it next to other K-pop soloists and singles, then it does single Tree out as a member of TWICE who should have not made a solo debut. You can debut solo even if you're not the best singer, as proven by ITZY's YENA having the most shine in ITZY as a soloist through her stage presence, and suddenly Tree looks even worse. I personally think there is value to idols being parts of group, and that's it for them. I don't think everyone is good enough at singing and commanding a stage to be a soloist, and that's totally okay. Not every K-pop idol has to be a good singer as long as they serve their purpose in the group. Continuing on Runaway, the song to me does not do enough to match Chui's lack of vocal abilities, and that's why it falls flat. We are circling back to the idea of tailoring a song to an artist. LE SSERAFIM's Crazy focuses on instrumentals and talk singing to match the skills LE SSERAFIM have, while Runaway has a very boring retro instrumental with a chorus that clearly requires ad-libs and a higher register. I don't understand why Tree couldn't debut with a song that doesn't make her faults stand out like a source hum. But then again, she is in JYP, and the song literally sounds like a JYP solo song, and he also wrote it. So it makes it even more ridiculous that Choi debuted with a song that could have been sung by JYP the artist. The lack of stage presence is really apparent in the music show performances too. People were hating on Aespa for years, but Choi has a straight face on a solo, and somehow that's passable. This is an entirely different topic, but double standards depending on whose hate train is going on right now has a lot to do with the emphasis K-pop sends put on vocals. It's not like NewJeans are much better than LE SSERAFIM at singing their songs. The songs are just tailored to their vocal abilities and have a loud backtrack more often than not, like in their Lollapalooza set. Yet, it's usually silence in that department because, again, 1. Being good vocalist isn't as important as the discord about it makes us think it is, and 2. Groups split lines in order to accommodate different levels of singing. Jimin's lack in vocal skills never were an issue in BTS because Jungkook would just sing the challenging parts and Jimin would only have to spit a line or two in his range. The reason the entire thing went south in his solo encore is because he was alone. This is the biggest proof of my points that if you're a good dancer or performer, and your groupmates can cover your weaknesses, you don't need to be a good vocalist just to stay on key for 7 seconds every 40 seconds or so. The issues arise when your company doesn't know how to hide your weaknesses and project strengths. That's why LE SSERAFIM is in hot water, and Choi won't be as successful as a soloist as Nayeon despite her popularity as a member of TWICE. V from BTS is a great example of an average vocalist utilizing his technique to sing a song that suits him musically and highlights his strengths. This should have been Choi. She should have never found a musical niche that is JYP the artist. She should have found a niche that caters to her strengths and her vocal strengths, and probably something that highlighted her face and her dancing because that's what she's really good at. To tie it all back in, let's summarize my points here in a logical way. K-pop groups have multiple members to cover multiple fronts. Among those fronts is singing. Singing is important because K-pop idols are musicians. The vocally challenging songs aren't for every group nor highlight the talents of every group in the industry, and that is good. Diversity in music and performance makes K-pop fun. But that doesn't excuse K-pop idols from at least staying on key, which is also important. If K-pop idols contribute to the group in areas other than singing, then they're still important and good at their job, ahem, Sakura haters. But K-pop companies have the duty of matching the group's abilities and strengths with the songs and choreography given to them. So yes, LE SSERAFIM can still do their jobs as idols, and they're not backup dancers, they're idols and musicians. And no, Tree probably should have not debuted solo, but since she already has, I think JYP should work on framing her musical identity in future releases.